Eco is really important. Obviously, we've seen it banned every single game. Honestly, a Poppy blind is not all that bad. It is a three-way flex, even if we haven't seen ZDZ play it this split. I think it is an important champion to have. It is going to be Nico taken away, so are we going to get that Poppy, or are we going to move towards maybe a champion like Maokai in the jungle? Also, a couple of mid lane champions that have not made their appearance so far in this series. Already a big one in my mind.
Oh, Poppy! Instant slam for EDG, and that can be flexed for either Xiaohao or Parukia.
I think giving it to Parukia is a very strong deny, but with all of the engaged supports, could end up being a little bit more risky. Depends on what the bottom lane for Peyz and Zhuo is going to be. Seeing now the response here from JDG, I think taking away a Maokai in this game could be very, very influential. And depending on what it looks like here, having to play into what could be a keeper's verdict, very, very dangerous. Seems like JDG know the assignment, though, in this game number 5. We're getting team fights, and we're going to have to lean on Peyz.
I love this from JDG. They know exactly where their strengths lie. It is in the Peyz basket. And now that a majority of the engaged supports are gone from the pool, enchanters can reign supreme. We saw it in best of 5s decision scenarios as early as split 2, and now it is Peyz and Zhuo leaning in for a Zeri Lulu combo in the bot lane.
On to Parukia, what is the options here? Because if I'm looking at this from their perspective, you've got two options. You can try to go for a kill lane with this Poppy early and make sure that this never really gets off to a start, or if you want to avoid this matchup, send the Poppy into the jungle and grab either a Bard or a Blitzcrank here. We'll see what the options for JDG are going to be, or for EDG. They're going to go for their solo lanes immediately, give themselves ways to play the games, and really ways to take down this Zeri. Aatrox would be pretty threatening, even though we don't see much from JDG's side, and Ahri always a playmaker, especially if this Poppy is in the jungle.
A lot of active priority here from Angel with the Ahri. Potential for strong playmaking in the first half of the game here. Might have some backline access, but when you think about what you're trying to set up for onto Zeri, we know that common combos are Ahri Vi, because you have that point and click guaranteed lockdown, but by opting in for the Aatrox first, tells me that EDG are totally comfortable giving over the Vi as a ban, and JDG now have a strong front line guaranteed at least for Shun with this Skarner lock-in.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why the Poppy is so valuable, right? Like, where we're talking about it having that flex potential, I would prefer to see it in the jungle, especially now that you have the Ahri, you can have that guaranteed lockdown. See what the AD carry pool is going to get pinched here, because there's no Caitlyn. You could go for a Smolder, honestly. I think you might run out of the ability to actually properly deal damage, but he does allow for you to play a little bit more scaling. You get that execute a little bit sooner when you have Ahri and Aatrox on your team. You also have Senna that you can play with the rest. Draven is a very cute nod towards On, who has been playing it a few times here this year.
Lissandra ban. Oh, that's a deep reach into Scout's pockets. I know that we saw one time a pick from Scout with that Lissandra back in split 2. JDG now eliminate the Vi just in case Parukia is given the Poppy and they want to make that Vi Ahri combo linked up here for EDG. As you called out, it can still be a Xiaohao Poppy lock-in, but that would push Parukia to another new support here in split 3.
What is the mid lane pick going to be here for Scout? If you're playing into Ahri, you could play Yone. Would give them dive, even if it is a little bit worse into the Poppy. Poppy can't block everything, right? Hopefully, anyway. We'll see what the option is going to be in mid. Maybe they just take top and say, let's give Scout more vision and more information as to how this draft is going to play out, because most AD carriers are not going to be able to stand up against a Yone.
A Mordekaiser lock-in. That can make things so difficult for EDG, especially for Xiaohao. If you think about objective scenarios, being able to just completely take and kidnap the jungler into the death realm, preventing him from being able to secure objectives, that makes things very tricky for EDG. What is the AD carry, or at least bot lane lock-in for On? He's toggling a lot of hovers right now.
I think it has to be Senna. Senna gives you range. You are a little bit weaker towards some of these tanks like the Skarner and the Mordekaiser, but allow for you to play with your front line. Give Angel and ZDZ a bit more room to breathe when you have all this healing and the ultimate. So now we get to see, where is this Poppy going to go for? EDG playing with a composition that I think relies on this top side, and more than likely seeing a Poppy in the jungle.
What is the final lock-in? How does EDG tie this composition together? Oh,
yes,
Parukia!
I called for it early. I called for it early. Okay, we're getting Maokai instead. This is where it gets a little bit tricky now, Raafaa, because there is so much crowd control that they can get down, but Parukia is going to be very, very squishy in this game. We get a victor to round out this draft here for JDG.
It is a heavy scaling composition here for JDG in Game 5. When you think about how JDG were able to find wins prior in this series, it was strong early game advantages that allowed them to snowball, especially in Game 4 specifically. They have a strong front line they can rally behind if they can get to that point. EDG looks like they're going to be sending the Maokai to Palkia's hands in the bottom lane. Send a Maokai. That's a lot of sustain. It's hard to break that laning phase for EDG's bot lane. Maybe that is where the concern stemmed from after getting absolutely destroyed by Peyz and Juo in the prior game.
I don't think it matters in this game, Raafaa. Look at this bottom lane. Like, Peyz and Juo just get to free farm the entire time, and you can play very aggressive in this 2v2. We need to see it from them as well, but my eyes go towards the top side. Xiaoxu and ZDZ have been so important for their teams in their wins, and especially with this Mordekaiser, he is going to have the single task of having the most important ultimate in this game. Who does he send into the Death Realm? Who does he take with him to weaken EDG's frontline and the ability for them to win games? Because if they get to 2 and 3 items, I think that this JDG composition is incredibly difficult to deal with versus a Mordekaiser.
This is it, Alk. No more drafts. These are the final compositions that both EDG and JDG have opted into for what could be one team's final series of the year. It is EDG and JDG for Game 5 here in Summoner's Rift.
Get some more Jaios. We said that as the series went further, crowd was going to get a little louder, a little bit more active. EDG favored, at least from the AI's perspective, but I think the value of having a Mordekaiser in this game is incredible. And Senna does augment her front line's ability to be there, deal damage. Eventually, Senna will outscale, or outrange, I should say, this Zeri. But I gotta say, Raafaa, what an exciting game number 5 draft. No like free scaling. We're getting at least some action here for EDG, and we need to see what they do in the early game, because while they might have some scaling pieces, it is up to them to dictate the early game. You have Ahri and a Poppy. 2v2s in that side of the map should be very, very easy.
Xiaohao will be a decent tank for EDG later the game goes on, but as we've seen from most Poppy performances by other LPL junglers here in this split 3, it has mostly been an aggressive early build. The Sunder Sky gives you a lot of skirmishing potential, and then you go off tank afterwards, whereas Shun is going to be opting into 4 HP and resistances. Heartsteel for the rush. This is going to be a tough front line to break for EDG, and they are not necessarily the best at being able to shred through HP and resistances from the damage profile that EDG have. Ahri really wants to get this game snowballed and accelerated. Peyz gets a level 2 advantage, goes for the early trade here onto On and Palkia, and they burn 2 Sunder spells from their bot lane.
On used the barrier very early on in this lane because he thought he was going to take a little bit more damage. He also missed out on a fair amount of stacks onto his opponents. So I think Peyz just recognizing, hey, I am so strong in this 2v2. Like, we absolutely own these frauds. ZZ is getting some decent trades. Poppy is skipping her 4th camp to make a play on top side. There's no ward here from Xiaoxu.
Xiaohao and ZDZ, can they link up and find the first kill of the game to break open this game 5. Xiaohao flashes after Xiaoxu's own flash, pushes him into ZDZ's waiting arms. He's still level 2. He finds the Darkened Blade into flash, and it's first blood for ZDZ here in game 5.
Does he recall? No, he's just going to take this last minion. He's going to recall. The wave's going to push towards him. Does he opt for the teleport? Scout is bullying Angel.
Ooh.
Finally, it took us 5 games here. And he was able to do it on the Galio. This time around, Scout using the strength of Victor in lane, especially with that Siphon power. He's going to get that first push into mid and allow for Shun to walk in his bottom side jungle. Gets a little bit more information.
He's going to place a late ward here near the Raptor camp, so he'll be able to at least see when the Raptor spawns again for EDG's jungler. There's a flash burn by Xiaohao. He still has the Hex Flush, so he can still make some pretty proactive and creative plays. Xiaohao takes the Scuttle Crab. He's going to look for a revisit. He would have to clear that ward on that Pixel Brush. Looks like he's just going to clear out the remainder of his topside camps here.
Hey, can you come gank top lane? I have 2 camps. Goodbye. Be gone, top laner. You will not bait me into another one. We're not doing this. It's game 5. Stressful enough. First gank does end up working, so kind of the prescription that we gave towards Edward Gaming is making sure they can get a little bit of that early action down. Cole coming on through here for Peyz, recognizing that this game is going to go a little bit later, especially in this bottom lane. I am not worried at all as the Zeri about this 2v2. My Lulu, by herself, probably wins the 1v2, honestly.
Yep, double range bot lane is a hell of a drug to have.
I mean, it's also Maokai early, man. Like, this champion is extremely useless.
For EDG, the hope is going to come into the playmaking ability for Parukia, trying to look for the flash twisted advances or just setting up with the saplings for objective control. Maybe that ultimate can find roots necessary to lock down JDG carries in those team fights, but we're not going to see that payoff until much later into the game. And one thing you noted before that I think is extremely important, Scout was able to bully off Angel, get a better buy. It's both Dark Seals for both mid laners, but at least an Amplifying Tome gives Scout a little bit of an edge here in the mid lane.
Ooh, Senna's going to miss this entire wave. That's tough. Maokai should be able to at least hold some of it. Duel's going to come on over, but they're going to start up this dragon. Pings are coming on through. Shun's on the area. Peyz is starting to hit it right now. They have access through mid yet again. Angel has to take another reset, and there's another wave that's going to get pile drive under the turret with level 6 already achieved there by Scout. Great job from JDG's laners for utilizing some of this draft.
Holy. I mean, Parukia is playing Maokai, has the Bramble Smash, but he would have to coordinate with Xiaohao to get the Smite in combo tandem. They're looking for it, but Shun is clutch with it. Parukia, flash twisted advance, trying to lock down Shun, forcing the flash out of the Skarner. The rest of Xiaohao trying to look for Zhuo as he is forced to flash away. And Peyz is not even threatened as he can just skate the wall back to safety.
Too messy there from EDG. The look is fine. The idea behind it, I think, is sound, but Xiaohao comes over the wall too late, so they have to chase them out of the pit, and they're already out of dodge by the time he gets back in. Scout had used the Arcane Storm in mid, probably just get another wave under the turret, and probably just gonna go get the second scuttle on top side here. So still behind in camps versus Shun. This means that Herald, or the grub spawning in a minute and a half. It'll be very important to see how and where Xiaohao gets access to experience, and whether or not we're even going to see our top laners join for this fight, as Xiaoxu's making his way over, and ZD's probably going to have to match after this.
Looking at the top lane, first component purchases, it's a Hex Drinker for ZDZ. Well itemized here, since you have double magic solo laners on JDG's side, and Xiaoxu is forced to go for the Bramble Vest just to reduce a lot of the sustain that ZDZ is boasting here on the Aatrox. Not sure how this is going to affect the future of this top lane for the laning phase for the next 7 minutes while turret plates are still on the line, but JDG have at least forced a swap out, sending Peyz and Zhuo to the top side of the map. Grubs is spawning in the next 40 seconds.
Xiaohao is clearing some of his camps. He's going to get red buff. He'll do his Raptors. Now he has level 6 before he starts this, so still able to have massive impact, but is an almost a full level lead coming in for Shun, who's had a I think, a pretty decent performance this entire series. Really the Z1 being the biggest blemish, but when you think about what he was able to get done in that game and kind of the draft that was around him, it was very suffocating to try to play in that one. So
yeah,
the Kiana game was really strong, and gonna need to put up one final strong performance. A player that, you know, we were talking about as one of those discarded kings, trying to make a name for himself this year, was contesting top 1 junglers in split 2.
Yep.
That should be at least 2 grubs going over to JDG.
On and Parukia trying to contest the topside river, but Xun is there, so they have to be careful about trying to challenge further. Xun does have the Impale ready, but he just goes for 1 grub trade guaranteed with the smite. And now just waiting for EDG's hand to show. Scout determining whether he wants to press forward on the river here. Xun has the boulder available.
Let Parukia hit these because he gets ultimate here if he's able to get at least a
smite
little
is
bit more
used.
experience.
Oh, they're looking for Scout, but he doesn't find the wall slam. It doesn't connect. Scout is able to now distance himself away. Throws out the Arcane Storm, and JDG guaranteed the 2nd grub for themselves. Charm lands on the Xun. He still doesn't have flash. Wait a minute. The Impale stalls for time on the Parukia, but that's a Maokai. That's not the target you want to hit. Xun is able to get the Ishtal impact and escapes back to safety. Jewel is caught on the left side. A meaningful sacrifice for JDG, as at least none of their meaningful carries go down. On's first kill arrives here in Game 5, as ZDZ has arrived to the top side of the map with Xiaoxu. Death Realm still available, so is World Ender.
All right, well, Peyz will catch this wave at the very least. Maybe they try to go for a dive here. Parukia doesn't have anywhere near level 6. Does he finish it with these last 3 minions? I don't think so. I was watching for both supports. Were they going to have access to their ultimates coming into that fight? Because that could have been another thing that changes this. On had level 6. Peyz did not for that fight. Still 2 grubs going over to JDG, a team that I think have a lot more ability to hit turrets as this game goes forward, but allows for JDG to now feel a little bit more confident that if they're going to make a trade on a side lane, if that dragon that spawns in a minute's time is something that they don't want to go for, they can look to get some turret plates, get themselves a little bit of gold here to match, where right now EDG are doing good.
Yep. Solid few hundred gold advantage for EDG, but it's not going to be enough to really carry that snowball to victory. EDG really need to blow this game wide open before the scaling really comes into peak form for JDG's carries here. Scout is going to get stronger on this Victor. Peyz is going to become a monster on this Zeri. We know how terrifying he can be from his time on Genji in years past, and EDG have to really do everything in this upcoming mid game to just break the game wide open.
Until On finishes this static shift, I think it should be rather tough for him to ever get mid-priority. He's also getting chunked pretty decently by Scout here. These Hextech Rays are doing a hell of a lot of damage, and if he finds a Siphon Power with that Phase Rush, maybe there's a chance he just forces him out of this entire bot lane play before he ever has a chance to really play the game here. Xun is trying to finish a couple more camps, get closer towards that Heartsteel. And it's right now EDG controlling the river, but there's no real play. They need to get On into maybe to kind of connect here.
That has been one of the things that has been the folly of EDG not giving On a clear path to connect with the rest of his team. Sometimes gets punished on the rotation. On is taking the safe route over through the bottom side of the jungle. A heal was burned by Parukia trying to look for the movement speed on to Peyz, but he's able to get out of harm's reach from EDG.
Calling, man. Okay, well, we've given the second dragon over to the team that has a Senna. A bit worrisome here, and EDG can always pull the trigger because they have this Maokai ultimate. Love the tension in this game, Raafaa. This is exactly what a Game 5 deserves. That push and pull between our two teams. That feeling of uneasiness, I think, very valid for both of these teams.
JDG just doing everything they can to hold their ground and weather the storm against EDG. I know you mentioned that the scaling for On is not something that should be disregarded, but I do feel like it is in JDG's interest to not give over any early advantages over to EDG. If they can endure, they will get to a point where they will feel confident in Peyz to try and continue carrying these games for JDG like he has throughout this series.
I'm looking at it right now. In Tier 1 play, Maokai support this summer is currently... oh god, that is terrible. It is 3-11 and 8.
Oh boy, well, I don't know if the EDG fans in the chat wanted to hear that.
Sorry, man.
Well, who knows? Maybe Parukia is able to flip the script here. One of the things about Maokai's support that does get severely weakened is, compared to Jungle Maokai, for example, you're not going to get Liandry's. You are really forced to build support items. That's why we see the Redemption Rush here for Parukia. And while that item will still be powerful, the saplings will give you vision, but it won't give you nearly as much influential control because Liandry's does make those saplings alongside what would normally be jungle experience actually enough levels and points into that E to make the sapling a little bit more threatening.
You also have Herald spawning, and speaking about our supports, one of them has a redemption. It is Parukia, so a bit more ability for them to find plays. This is also very lucky, you know, with the dragon giving so many extra pushes. Like, Maokai can be very, very difficult to deal with, and now that they also have the static shift completed, it should be a lot easier for EDG to move on and allow for Parukia to get all these roams. He's going to reset to get his vision back up. This does give time for JDG to move forward and hopefully clear some of this vision. They are not crossing the river line.
Looks like Shun was able to at least help pop some of these saplings. The last one on that red buff brush follows Peyz, but he's able to heal up with some honey fruit in the red buff quadrant. Skates back over to his side of the map. Rift Herald, still another 25 seconds before it spawns on the Rift here. We have not seen further action from ZDZ and Xiaoxu in this 1v1 ever since Xiaohao gave him a little bit of a buff and a little bit of a boost in the early laning phase.
It's happening again, Raafaa. Look at this. 3 games in a row now, Jewel has decided or elected to go for a Mikhail's Rush over a Redemption. A bit more of a, not selfish, but it is a one-sided buff. You can Redemption all 5 of your team. You can only Mikhail's a single member as Jewel. We are expecting for it to go over to Peyz, but obviously the flexibility in who is allowed to get cleansed here. And all of this vision is in favor of EDG, not only with the sapling, but those individual wards. ZDZ will have the ability to teleport, and he pushed in a wave. So does Xiaoxu immediately drop this? Yes, that's going to happen.
Shun looking for the stall impact, does not get enough distance to slam on into the wall. He's able to rejoin the ranks of EDG. Xiaoxu looks for that claw, doesn't find anyone. Good root and patience from EDG. Herald, 4k HP. It's going to reset here. Xiaohao with the Keeper's Verdict. It doesn't reset. He winds it up. Who's he going to punt it on?
That's Mikhail's.
Here we go. JDG still in the river trying to fight for posture. The Rift Herald finally does reset here. Decent damage and poke from the side of EDG. And JDG trying to find a window when they can step up. Xiaoxu still has Death Thrum available. Ideally, it should be on the Xiaohao so that they can have a window to try and secure that Herald for themselves. But JDG, they're not contesting the river for now. They're letting Peyz pick up the wave in the mid lane instead. And EDG are trying to secretly burn down the Herald.
They can't do this anymore. We're seeing it now. Peyz is going to finish his recall here. This is just JDG posturing just to be on vision, see if they can force their opponents to make a mistake, but they got that mid wave in. I think that should have been a moment where JDG just say, look, we're going to have everybody screen on this side of the map. I might as well just use the pen tool while we're here. Let's screen them from entering into mid lane and then move in and take this mid-tier turret, or at least deal enough damage that their opponents can feel stressed. It's going to be that ultimate now, or sorry, the flash from on being used. So Dragon that is up does mean that EDG need to be a little bit more careful. Wonder if they'll make a trade for themselves. They're sending 4 players up into the top side here.
Like, looking for the dive on the Xiaoxu. He still has Death Thrum available. I'm not sure how good of a play it is. They're just going to drop the Rift Herald and try and force some early gold into their pockets here. And with all 4 members, Xiaoxu cannot stay to defend the turret from dropping.
Ooh, Victor gets this wave. Can observers show this real quick? I know we're showing the Herald on top side, but I think it's rather important that Scout got a free time on this bottom lane wave, and he got himself another wave, so turret gold going over to Victor, not bad. It was a single Herald charge, not even fully used there by EDG. I don't think they're going to be able to get much more off of this, and Scout's going to go for even more.
And important for JDG, they claim the feat of objectives first over EDG. So even though EDG got first break, it is now up to them to get feat of warfare in order to secure feats of strength over JDG, who have yet to pick up a single kill in this Game 5.
Scout's got to be feeling nice, man. He just got paid. Absolutely paid.
Yep.
A lot of gold in his pockets now, so see if he'll get closer to finishing a second item, probably closer to that dragon that'll be spawning in 4.5 minutes. We've got probably the most important objective in the game at this moment, just worldwide. Otacon in 1.5 minutes. There will be no flash for On in this fight. And aside from some early kills, a bit of skirmishing from On and ZDZ with Xiaohao, we are still only 2 kills into this game. You said it, you called it, the feats of warfare, the feats of strength, potentially being on the line here around that objective. And it's on the top side of the map this time.
Something tells me the game just could be decided at this fight for the Otacon. The way that both of these teams have pretty much thrown their lives for this objective in prior games when both teams were able to contest for it at the same time, it has done irreparable damage for the rest of the game to the team that did not get the objective for themselves. As right now, EDG trying to continue bolstering that vision line on the top side in preparations for that objective.
The experience is nice, but I think the combat buff that you get from it, that when you are able to grab that kill, you get that slow, that AoE damage, does feel a lot better. For either team, the experience would be great. Getting Senna to like level 11, level 13 is amazing. You get more experience and adaptive force for someone like Zeri and Victor. They become monsters in team fights. So, be very, very pivotal here, and we still have yet to see what Xiaoxu's impact in this game is going to be. Did get tower dove, did die one time in this game, but we haven't gotten that death realm around a big objective that could make or break a lot of these fights. And we said coming in that top lane was going to have to be the most pivotal role here if we wanted to see either of these teams really take a win today.
Before this Game 5, it has seemingly been ZDZ's series over Xiaoxu so far, but with this Mordekaiser pick, that could change everything in this Otacon pit if Xiaohao is removed from Summoner's Rift and giving Xun the freedom to take a objective uncontested in Smite.
He's trying to get a little bit of damage down onto Xun. We're going to control this top lane wave. Ahri is first to mid, and Xiaoxu could actually end up jailing him if he wanted to get over there, but now he has to catch this wave. He's going to be late to this. Ahri can show up with Spirit Fire and her ultimate.
Decent damage from the Otacon onto Xiaohao's health bar. Scout has Seekers, keep note of that. Peyz, all summoner spells, Mikhail's available. Palkia unleashes the ultimate, looks for multiple routes. It's only hits Xun and Scout. The Mikhail's Crucible is burned from Zhuo, keeps his mid laner alive. Angel taking a lot of damage from Scout's laser. Palkia gets sent forward by the claw, but still alive and not forced to flash. He also has a smite available to help Xiaohao secure the objective. Peyz takes some damage from On, as well as the rest of the members of EDG. Xun on top of the Otacon, but neither team has started up the objective. They're just looking to poke EDG off the objective for now.
Xiaohao right now, he's starting up the Gromp. It's going to be Angel looking for a recall. Does he have a second item here?
You gotta be careful. The flash from Peyz looks for his moment as he pops the ultimate, forces On out of the pit. Xiaohao, flash, Keeper's Verdict, punch Scout out of the table here. ZDZ trying to persist through as he's forced into the death realm against Xiaoxu, and Xiaoxu wins the 1v1. The claw finds Palkia. Scout's laser burns him to a crisp. They're pushing forward, and Peyz will ring the rally cry for JDG to push through in this Game 5.
Scout teleported right back into that play, and Peyz is firing away at EDG. They started off so well by finding Xun. It will be no Otacon here for JDG, but it will be a turret and a team fight win that gets so many summoner spells out from their opponents.
Because Xun drops, you call that JDG cannot start the Otacon, but a good injection of gold goes into the pockets of JDG.
On starts this fight off, getting caught. So much damage onto him, and what have we said all 5 games? Peyz has been the better AD carry. On has been getting caught out, and On has made way too many mistakes for this team, potentially costing them a game and a half here in this series. Maybe even this one. We said this fight was going to be incredibly pivotal. ZDZ could not do enough on this Aatrox. Xiaohao, not enough here in this fight, and while On can provide healing, Angel never really found that backline access. It was not enough here. We're getting right back towards the top side of the map. ZDZ can teleport in. He is almost level 14, and Angel is going to do the same thing.
What's crazy is EDG actually got the first kill of the fight, so they claim the feats of strength. They get access to the tier 2 boots as well as the tier 3 boots. Not sure if that's going to make the biggest difference here, but it's a small advantage that EDG can at least put in the pockets for themselves. Otacon leashed up, 7k, 6k. On steps up. Remember, there's no flash on the center. You gotta be careful. The Death Realm sends On with him. Can Xiaohao get into the pit? Otacon at 3k HP, trying to rally behind On as he comes out of the Death Realm, still alive, but Shun looms forward and puts it into On's life. The Impale will find Parukia, and the rest of JDG can now lunge and fly on forward.
Oh no!
Gets slammed into the wall, but he's still surviving for now. ZDZ pops the world under. Can he bring EDG back from the brink? He's finding the Darkened Blades. Shun has to back off. But ZDZ doesn't find the last Darkened Blade mark, and Scout is the last hope for this team, and he will come in clutch to keep JDG alive in the Otacon pit.
And the unlikely hero, Scout, stands tall in game number 5, finding them so much damage, the kill, and more importantly, again, the top laners here. ZDZ fighting with every last breath in these fights, and Xiaoxu catching out On. We thought, where was the ultimate going to go? Was it going to be onto Xiaohao to get him away from the Otacon? But On, stepping too far, twice in a row now. An experienced AD carry making these mistakes is costing his team this series and potentially their lives here in Split 3 playoffs. He dies before the redemption can even drop. Angel is nowhere near this fight because of Scout's positioning. And Scout with phase rush, Scout with every single ability can step forward. It feels bad because Peyz thinks he has a lot more in the tank than he does, even with the with the Lulu in his back pocket. The Otacon in the picture-in-picture is finally gonna go down in favor of JDG.
6k, Parukia and Xiaohao arrive back to the pit. Keeper's Verdict punts out Shun. Can EDG try and burn down the Otacon before Shun gets back? It's Parukia with the ultimate, but
it's
the Otacon resets. JDG now have more time. Xiaoxu looking for the Death Realm target. Impale does find. I believe that's ZDZ going down. JDG eliminate the Aatrox from the fight. And EDG, they are now down to 4. I don't know if their chances look great here. JDG still have all 5, and Peyz is holding the line boldly and confidently with Cleanse and Flash available. Xiaohao lunges forward, looking for 12. Peyz pops the ultimate, burns down Xiaohao. The Death Realm keeps him in rage, and Xiaoxu puts an end to Xiaohao. The Otacon is finally secured for JDG, and that could just be the hopes of this world dream for EDG coming to a bittersweet end.
Too many times that they've been caught. Maybe they go for the Baron. Dwo, does he have the ability to get back out onto the map? There's still a dragon. Shun
He's too
not be
tanky,
going
man.
down.
On
got
an Angel,
flash
find
still.
enough CC, but Shun is still able to survive thanks to the flash in his arsenal. And JDG now with the Otacon on their side, with 2 dragons on their side, a 4,000 gold advantage, should have everything they need to make the final steps to closing out this series.
EDG just threw around the Otacon. That was 3 separate fights around this objective that they lost in a row. Not an ability for them to get into that back line. Xiaohao was looking for maybe an angle onto Dwo, maybe he can get into the pit, but it's not enough. And Peyz, he gets to stand tall right alongside his mid laner. Dragon's gonna go over and put them on soul point. EDG, they've lost the plot in this game. There's no ability for them to, I mean, look at the start of this fight. There's no Maokai ultimate, and it lands on a nobody here. Like, by the time they engage, Otacon's not engaged upon. The Nature's Grasp just does nothing versus JDG. And they're just completely split up. Look at where Angel and On are. They're nowhere near this fight. ZDZ walks way too far forward. And that might have just costed EDG a Split 3 playoffs.
See the rest of the replay playing out. EDG just throwing everything into the wall, trying to find a miracle out of a disastrous scenario. Shun just impaling out of the teleport. Angel Angel is already forced to flash. ZDZ trying to look for Scout into the back line, but this Victor is so strong. ZDZ pops the World Ender, but he's in the Death Realm. It's just him and Xiaoxu fighting to the bitter end. ZDZ is not winning the 1v1. He's forced to flash away. Parukia completely deleted. JDG continuing the fight on here. EDG dropped to 4 members. JDG have already picked up the 3rd dragon for themselves here. There's nothing more that they need to fight for, but it's EDG just continuing to throw attempt after attempt, trying to find something to salvage this game 5. But I think the writing's on the wall here.
The only bit that we can maybe rely on is On with 100 stacks, but his level of play so far in this series has left much to be desired. Level 16 coming soon for Angel. Not a lot of room, and you had it right there, Raafaa. The writing's on the wall. We are seeing JDG in live time slowly start to put the grips, put the brakes down onto EDG, and any kind of hopeful dreams of a Group Nirvana run are coming to a close. He's going to have 93 stacks, 95 stacks by the time they finish this turret. CDZ is behind them. Peyz just absolutely lets the ultimate rip. He has an experimental hex plate, so he'll have his ultimate back up soon.
He has been able to use a lightning crash so many times this game 5 and just using it aggressively to force EDG to respond. They're burning the Baron. This is the last Hail Mary they have in the books here.
Guys, are we sure we need to fight this? I mean, the dragon spawns in 3. It's going to get spotted out now. They need to be able to make this turn happen and find it quickly here. This is the last bit that we could see from EDG in 2025.
The Baron, they're trying to pull off it now. The Baron fully resets. JDG now can look for an engage. Parukia throws out the ultimate, looking for roots. No one gets caught in the Mordekaiser Claw. Shun is rooted momentarily. The charm connects, but he's just too tanky. And Scout, yet to pop the Seekers, has over 20 stacks on his Medjai Soul Stealer. This is the best that Scout has looked all series long, and just in time to make sure JDG can cross the finish line.
So many questions about if Scout was going to show up in this series, whether or not we were going to get the Scout that costed them the games versus Billy and Knight. Baron is at 9,000 right now. Xiaohao is charging it up. Shun is out of the pit.
For the charm and the Spirit Rush, but Scout answers with his stasis on the Seekers. ZDZ pops the World Ender. He's in the Death Realm with Xiaoxu once again. Xiaohao trying to position and coordinate with his top laner, but EDG! They lose Angel! They lose Parukia! On is next on the finish line. Scout destroys him with the power of the Arcane! JDG continuing to find one member after another on the ranks of EDG! And that's it, Alk! JDG, find the ace. They don't need the Baron. They're going to push into the base. How far can they go?
Oh, it looks like they might be able to end. They've got a massive minion wave. They've got 2 grubs and 5 members. JDG have done it. It is game 5.
You can see the facial reactions on EDG. They know their fate is in the writing. It's about to come to an end. You can write JDG off. You can cast them aside, but the discarded kings will not be denied! JDG, keep their hopes alive!
And that is going to be JDG getting a date with Weibo in a few days' time. Moment of silence goes over to EDG. An unfortunate one. Really feel bad for Parukia. Put in a couple of really weird performances towards the end of this series. Obviously, Valiant and his first playoffs here. Obviously ends in a game 5 clutch. Kind of feels bad for the rest of EDG as well. A run that a lot of people were starting to get excited about as one of the 2 top teams coming in from Group Nirvana. The story of Parukia no longer able to continue on forward. I think EDG can still hold their heads high for what they were able to accomplish, not only today, but in all of 2025.
It's great heartbreak for the members of EDG. What started out as a hopeful spark with Parukia joining the roster here in Split 3 turned into a flame that many were hopeful could turn into a realistic dream for EDG to make the run to Worlds. That flame comes to a burning end. EDG will not be able to make the run to Worlds 2025. Their season ends tonight as JDG find victory in the final game of the series.
And potentially that could be the end of any hope for our Group Nirvana representatives. Tomorrow will be NIP versus Anyone's Legend. This is probably the closest we were going to see out of those series. Still a lot potentially there if NIP decide they want to play some of the best League of Legends they've played all 2025 long and want to do the very funny thing of knocking out our Split 2 champions early here in the bracket. But, man, going up against Weibo, I think this JDG team has a lot to work on. They've now had to play 10 games already, not including their play-in series. And Weibo have just looked a lot better than their counterparts here, but an insane Game 5. Peyz continuing to be a rock-solid member of this team. Scout finally finding his mojo in this series in game number 4 and game number 5. The Galio and the Victor games looked really, really good. And that was 2 games back-to-back, especially for JDG, that they needed to win.
Yeah. We said that oh man, come on, producer Kai. Just this is mean. No, come on. Let's as Alk said, a moment of silence for EDG. Their world's dream comes to an end. But for JDG, remember the story of this team. These are a bunch of individuals that were cast out from their former teams at the end of 2024. It's vindication for them to continue their world's dreams alive, and I believe with championship points, they should have enough to at least contest Ninjas in Pajamas. It depends now on whether NIP can find the upset against Anyone's Legend, but if NIP do lose against Anyone's Legend tomorrow night, JDG will at least guarantee themselves in the regional final gauntlet, even if they don't make the run here in Split 3 playoffs.
Exactly. It's a tough one here for EDG, and even for JDG, all they needed to do was outplace NIP and EDG. That is the only way that they can continue to keep their lives here in the bracket, as well as potentially looking for a world spot. I can't believe we came into this. We saw EDG take a really strong start to this series. They found those 2 wins, but could not really piece it together. I think part of it is going to come down to Fearless, right? The effective champion pools of a player like Parukia. You only have so much time to get as many champions under your belt. They played, on average, about 10 less games than the Group Ascend teams did from what we saw from them. And so that could have been games that could have been spent on, maybe we introduce 1 extra champion onto Parukia. Now you start to have regrets. Could this been a Blitzcrank angle in game number 5? Wouldn't it even worked versus JDG? The Elise game they're probably going to want back for all of the troubles that they had. And remember, even EDG, not as, I guess, innocent as maybe we say, because this team did make some roster changes. They dropped Awesome halfway through the season. They brought in On and Wink. Wink gets traded over to JDG as they were looking for a support change. They obviously get Parukia, and that makes a big resurgence for them going in. But how did they finish Split 3? With a couple of losses towards the back end of the season to teams like NIP and LGD.
I don't have the answer for you, Alk. But something I do have as an answer was Scout being able to answer the call when JDG needed him most in the most darkest hour for JDG. Backs against the wall, 2-2 scenario. Peyz goes down in this fight, and Scout has remained unthreatened and was scaling on up, farming up a storm in the side lanes. You called that he got solo time on that turret, multiple waves, and he pays off the investment big time. Scout finally shows up for JDG, and we've said it before, throughout 2025, Scout, on average, has been putting in disappointing performances, but when he locks in, Alk, when he locks in and remembers that he is a goddamn world champion from his time on EDG, this guy can push JDG over the finish line when Peyz can't.
All right, look, I'm going to just say Peyz had a very easy job to play this game. I think that it was made very easy knowing that your enemy AD carry is never going to outplay you in a lot of these fights. We saw also the impact of a player like Xiaoxu just being able to make these numbers advantage fights and also take key players out of fights very early on. I mean, like, Peyz gets to free fire in these fights, and yes, it is Scout who is kind of getting to use that phase rush and get into their opponent's backline. I think it's a moment where either of these carries could get an MVP this game, and I would not be too upset. Clear Love, you are not free from punishment for today. You, sir, are a dangerous man. You did very, very bad things in some of these games. So, head down, stay humble, and let's get back in there.
I know that a lot of teams are sparking rumors that Misfortune is really strong recently. I don't think it's the right champion for this team. Not saying it's the right champion for Peyz. I don't think it's the right champion for this team. Because when Peyz has mobility and the freedom to be able to outplay and bait out cooldowns from his opponents, that opens up the space for JDG in these team fights. Unfortunately, Misfortune has no dashes in her kit. She just has decent movement speed in her W.
There we go.
Xiaoxu. Okay,
Hell
well,
yeah. Hell yeah.
I guess the Death Realm was important too. Look, I'm not mad at it. I just wasn't expecting it.
This was a tough series, and one that was very weird, I think. Not only just going to Game 5, not unexpected, especially for when we looked at our predictions, but you look how Xiaoxu has played up until this point. He was one of the only shining stars on this team, aside from Peyz in moments. And we got to see him get kind of bodied by ZDZ for a large portion of the series. But in this game number 5, whether it was those nerves, whether it was knowing that he could trust his team, Xiaoxu stayed composed and got to be really, really impactful in this game. So that's it. That's the end of our series. And I know we got some updated graphics, and we have our updated bracket for everybody to take a look at. 2 days time. That's all you're going to get. Tomorrow we're having the last Group Nirvana representative show up against our Split 2 champions.
Oh, that's it's going to be a tough match for Ninjas in Pajamas. I know Anyone's Legend have not really returned to consistent title-winning form, but this is still a very, very powerful and terrifying team to deal with, even in their inconsistencies throughout Split 3. And while Ninjas in Pajamas had arguably 2 competitive games against top esports in their best of 5 in the upper bracket, I don't know if that's going to be enough against Anyone's Legend. Hopefully for any Doinby super fans, they're going to be giving all their energy to NIP tomorrow. I know Alk will.
I want Doinby to win, bro. I need that like water right now, immediately, please. I need Doinby to win. I need Leave to win, but it would hurt because I really love a player like Hope. I think he has performed pretty admirably all season long, and the fact that they're in this lower bracket means that there's probably going to be a few teams. We're going to see the fact that we have AL versus IG coming up potentially is really, really scary here. But we made it, Raafaa. We've got a lot of 5 games, and you and I have now casted 2 of them.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. This 2025 season, an introductory one for me in the LPL region, has been nothing short of an absolute adventure. And being able to tell the story of EDG even as their world's dream comes to an end, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And again, congratulations to JDG, who keep their own world's dreams alive, as they now await to see what happens with the result of Ninjas in Pajamas and Anyone's Legend tomorrow. But for us here on the broadcast, it is now time to close out the show. So before we do, we want to give a big thank you to our Elite Coffee supporters, Aaron Soup, Mung, Force Without. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an English LPL product every single day. Shout out to our socials, shout out to our moderators, and shout out to producer Kai as well, who was here with us from start to end on this amazing journey between JDG and EDG. Alk, Any last words?
No, I want to say thank you to all the fans who watched us. There was another series at the same time, the BFK, B&K Firax, as well as KT playing. That one ended a little bit earlier, so I want to thank everybody who showed up for today, whether you're here for only a game or the entire 5-game series. The show is not possible without fans. And, oh, last one I will say, day aside, your team is getting mollywopped by Weibo. I'm sorry. You're not seeing... I had to eat my words. I had a very special image ready for if JDG lost. You're just going to have to wait 2 days to see it.
Weibo are going to be an insanely tough opponent considering the form they were able to show so far in playoffs for JDG, but anything is possible here in the LPL. On behalf of the broadcast, staff, and crew, between myself and Alk, good night, and see you tomorrow.